Good morning. This is Nick with Williams Sewer Line Inspectors. Performing a video inspection for 3307 Rodeo Road in Los Angeles. The city sewer is actually located in the back alley. That's what we're looking at right now. This is a very heavy flow of water. This is connecting to all of this entire row of houses. As soon as we pull back out of the city sewer, we're into the line just for this property. And that's what we're looking at. This line, while it's underneath the alleyway, it's still part of the main sewer line for this property. It's owned by whomever owns this property. Maintenance and repairs are then the responsibility of the owner of the line. Pulling back, we see that this connection to the city sewer is a little bit rough. It is a field connection. Sometimes these look a little bit rougher than the factory-made connections are a little bit smoother and a little bit more reliable, but at this time, this field connection seems to be doing all right. We have a crack right here in the clay pipe. It's underneath the 11, running down to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Pull back a little bit more, and that crack goes up a little bit, now towards the seconds on the time. This is a crack which is encompassing a section of pipe. I can't tell you 100% that this is a failure in the pipe, just because exactly what's happening with it is that this was a field connection. It is possible that this was broken as they were installing it. At this time, my recommendation would be have a look at it again in a few years' time, maybe 5 years. See if roots start coming in through it. At that time, it might require a repair or replacement. The other thing which could be done with this, which would be a little bit a preemptive sort of handling for anything that could possibly go wrong with this pipe, is a liner can be put from the city sewer into this pipe. Typically that costs somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000. They don't have to dig up the alley to do it. They actually put a robot in through the city manhole covers, and they use a camera inside the line like I have right now to guide a new liner from that robot up to 3 feet from the connection to the city sewer. Since this is at the connection to the city sewer and comes back about 6 inches, that liner would completely cover this section. If a repair were to be done, that's the repair I would recommend. The only danger in waiting, let's say 5 years, to take a look at this again, to see if it's damaged even more, would be that if this pipe displaces or moves, it could cause that lining system to no longer be a viable option. You'd be stuck with digging up the street, which is considerably more expensive. So at this time, I am going to recommend to put the liner in just to be safe. But it's important to understand that this is a preventative measure, that it makes the most sense because of the difference in pricing. The price of digging up an alley that's got this many connections to it, and fixing that could be up to maybe $6,000–7,000 for a shallow dig, and considerably more for a deep dig. And I've heard of this lining method being installed for as low as $1,250. There's no way I could guarantee that price. Obviously, I'm not the one who does the work, but it would make sort of sense just based off of the differences in pricing on that. Let's go ahead and pull back and look at the rest of the line. This is a clay system. Clay doesn't get old, per se. It doesn't age as a material. So it doesn't rust or corrode or wear itself out. The only things that can happen to clay are that it can be broken by roots, by mishandling, it can be broken through earthquakes, and if any of those things happen, then we'll see it on this camera inspection. Right now there's no other cracks or breaks that I see other than that first one. And that first one doesn't have any roots coming into it. really the only reason I recommend a repair on that one at all is just because if it gets worse, it is a much more expensive form of repair to do. Hang on, this will headache. Here we have another crack in the line. This is in the center of the pipe. This is right as the line drops in depth. So have a look at that, and we'll see where to go from there. That's a joint. Some roots coming in through a joint here. A little bit of offsetting in the joint, not something I would call out for repair or replacement this time. A lot of roots coming in through this joint here. Let's see, is there a joint there? No, that's not a joint. The joint's back here, and those roots are all coming in through a crack in the pipe location, unless, you know what this could be? It does actually look a bit like this. This is a Y connection. That's exactly what this is. Yeah. So this is just a pipe that actually goes to the left and for an access from the right. And that access has been sealed up at this point, but not sealed very well, and a lot of roots are coming in through it. This is something that's not necessarily going to damage your pipe. It's going to allow a little bit more roots to come in. I would recommend to get rid of those. You'd have to do something like a hydrojetting. But then a traditional snaking should be able to keep them mostly in check as long as it uses the proper size, full-size sewer blade to get into the system. Should be able to clean that out pretty well. There's the joint. Okay. So it's not a break in the system, it's just a very common fitting that I see. And sometimes it does allow a lot more roots to come in through it. Another joint. Joint. So most of these joints are looking pretty good. Some roots coming in through this one. Very few cracks in the system. It's interesting that there's so few minor cracks, or cracks which I would not recommend any repair on. And the cracks which I am seeing are actually more significant. So that indicates to me that perhaps this is a bit of earthquake damage occurring in here. Perhaps it was damage due to the installation of the pipe, which happens. The way that the pipe is installed sometimes can cause damage to the pipe during installation. Obviously I couldn't prove that just with the look inside, but the idea that I get from this. We got a little bit of an offset here. This is not something that is going to cause a problem for your system. It's not allowing sewer to escape the system. When water comes in, new water is introduced into the system, it's going to flow right over that little lip. I have had city inspectors who would require something like this to be replaced because it is an offset in an upwards direction rather than an offset in a downwards direction. It's a bit arbitrary. The pipe is holding water, it's not draining out of the system, so that's something which you couldn't really argue with the city inspector about if he were to say that, but the only time a city inspector would be inspecting this line is if you were planning on doing major renovations to the house and needed to get a sewer inspection as part of that. Here's an access into the line that's been installed in the past. Okay, we're into a change of pipe materials now. What is this? Is this the plastic? Yeah, I believe a bit of plastic pipe in here. Plastic starts right here. So actually, This offset's quite typical in a plastic to clay connection, and there's a rubber fitting that goes completely around it and steel bands which holds that rubber fitting tight. So it is a sealed joint. It's actually not a problem at all. It's a fitting which I've located in the front yard. It's about 2 feet 10 inches deep. This allows access into the line, and then there's another one here which allows access into a different direction in the line. This is really an ideal setup for access into a system. The only problem with it is that it's been very inexpensively. This could be dug up and extended so that it can actually be used. It's only a couple of feet deep. It's possible that they extended that pipe up a little bit, so it could be only a foot or so underneath the soil. That'd be something that I would definitely have access into the system. You can clean the roots out regularly. And then we go from this newer plastic into this cast iron, which goes underneath the house. This is a bit of cast iron left in the system. We're going to actually pull out of it in a second here. It's fairly round shape still to it. No major blistering and deformations. It's definitely got rust. It's older, but it doesn't appear to be close to failure. There can't be any guarantees given on cast iron testing of the pipe. The nature of the material doesn't allow for an exact estimation of when it will fail. Cast iron typically lasts between 60 and 80 years before needing replacement. We go right back into plastic pipe here. Plastic's an excellent material. It lasts for a couple hundred years without needing replacement based off of current estimations. Also, plastic doesn't allow for roots to come into the system when it's been properly installed. This pipe appears to have been properly installed based off of what I can see. We go into some cast iron, typically cast iron in a vertical application, has very little contact to water, and so it doesn't rust very quickly. It can last considerably longer, probably normal cast iron. Placing it around 300-400 years, something like this, before you need to replace vertical cast iron. The only times that would be different is when you have pipe connecting to it. You tend to get rust. You tend to get rust around those connection points. All right, so this is where we access from the roof. The line is running out there to that fence, running out into the alley. Please see my written report for all final findings and recommendations. Excuse me. Again, this is Nick with Williams Shoreline Inspectors. Thank you very much, and have a great day.